3, 2, 1, let's jam. Fucking Cowboy Bebop, dude.
Yeah, man, it is. Even the opening itself is just amazing. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about, this amazing golden, legendary anime?
Freaking legendary anime. Easily disputable as, like, the best anime series of all time. It's like, or the best anime season, I should say. Because Cowboy Bebop's like 27, 26 episodes, right?
Yeah.
It's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen it. I'll start that off right now. But I do love this freaking show, like, a lot. I've seen it like probably like 20 times already, especially through phone. But yeah. Cowboy Bebop takes part in this universe where everything is space. Let's not say this world. Let's definitely say this universe.
Yeah.
Takes place in space, and you're introduced to this bounty hunter crew, which early on starts off with 2 members, and then slowly gets added on. We'll talk about who the characters are later on, but first we'll just say we got Jet and Spike.
Yeah.
So, so Spike's like the cool dude. He's obviously like the main character. That is the first episode, like, oh, here's your main character. Until you realize everyone's a fucking character, even if they're there for like 5 minutes.
Yes.
What's cooking? Special bell peppers and beans.
Yeah, but it's like it's mind blowing how much this show just jumps around with everything. It does everything. You can't put a genre to this show because it literally jumps around for everything. It has moments of horror. It has moments of psychological. It has moments of comedy. Moments of action. It has, and it's, oh my god, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Then, my brain just wants to go straight to something that I talked about. So, Zyber, you talk about this for a second. You pick it up.
Okay. So, yeah. Now before we get to the to the main thing, this anime for me, I watched it. Let's see when. Oh God. First, I mean, like most of us, we started watching it on Adult Swim. Let's be real here. When the internet,
yeah, Adult Swim was definitely,
yeah, exactly. When the internet wasn't that big of a deal, when the anime wasn't that like fast, let's just say it like that. But Adult Swim was there, and I just started watching some episodes there. Because I didn't watch it completely there because, of course, I need to watch it from the beginning. Then I waited a few years later when the internet, got faster and the animes were online. So I watched this anime, and once I heard that intro, that opening is what we call it here. It threw me back into those 90s days. This is obviously a 90s anime. My favorite kind of, anime boom, anime jam. Through all this, this anime, the most thing that I loved was the music. And man, it blew me away. It even like triggered me, like, man, what if I at least try to mix my instrument, which is not an instrument for jazz, but I tried jazz, and this anime totally inspired me to just play jazz. And damn, this just by the looks of it too, because this was on in the 90s, and that's a fact right there, because it was in the late 90s. It was like 97, 98, and it you see it today, and it is so it looks 90s, but it doesn't look dated. I don't know if you know what I mean, Dids. It's
I do know
yes,
exactly what you
yes.
mean. This anime is way fucking ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm.
Like at least a decade ahead of its time.
Yes.
It's like the art style in it. It's just I have seen no show, and a lot of people that say are like that the show's like the spiritual successor of like the spirit of Cowboy Bebop, which is Samurai Champloo,
Yeah,
which would be a great anime which would be a
exactly.
great anime to review at some point. But even that show, like the art style, does not stand up to Cowboy Bebop's art style. It's freaking amazing. It's unique. I've never seen anything do a scene and let you realize the depth that there is into a single scene. Like you could be seeing the scene of a ship from a certain angle, but it makes you imagine how like there could be other ships roaming around just a little bit out of the frame, you know?
This is
And
the
it's
Bebop
just
ship.
crazy. Yeah, and
the Bebop.
when you see them like approach a planet and you start seeing like the city zooming in certain scenes, it's like the depth that there is everything in this world is all you know?
Indeed. It's and for that, this anime made a huge impact in the West, and it's so hard for Japanese. Anime itself could do an impact on the Western, and I mean on the United States, Mexico, Central America, South America. It needs to be good, and most of the anime that were actually like very famous at the time, it had longer episodes, such as at least 100 episodes and plus, or about 50 back in the day. Some of them, because it needed to be very good to be actually dubbed, subtitle of course, and this is the real good dub. And let me tell you, dub today cannot be compared back in the day, and that I will say Spanish and English, like they were top notch, good voice acting, and for this anime in particular, it is top notch. I have like, oh my goodness, this is even better than, like, it's still better than what we have today in dubbing. And I saw it in both languages, such as English and Japanese. And man, it is, both language and voice acting were so high quality. And there's another thing that this anime made a huge impact, besides the animation and of course the music. It was the characters. You know, we're gonna get into the characters now, and so yeah, Dids, who your favorite character, or the character that most impacted you or inspired you? Please tell us about it.
Okay. So, you want me to state my favorite character?
I mean, you could say both. I mean, if you have two, or if you want to mention more, feel free.
At least, okay, my favorite pair of characters, because I feel like these two complement each other so well, and they just feel like a pair of characters, especially how they, especially during their last episode on the show, which wasn't the finale of the show, it was a couple episodes before. But my favorite pair are always going to be Edward and Ein,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
which are Ed and Ein. Uh,
Yes.
or I think his full name's like Edward Wong. Edward has like a different outlook because he's like in this show. This show is as I've said, this show is depressing
Mm-hmm.
and it is strongly about dealing with your past. And while Edward has things from his past to deal with, he doesn't let it affect him. He doesn't let it become his character. It doesn't let the fact that he has to face his past become who he is. He's always looking towards the future.
Yes.
And Edward, at his last episode, he leaves the ship. He leaves and he leaves the crew. And I feel that the reason he does that is because he realizes that he's not going to go to his future being. He's not going to see his future being on the Bebop. He's just going to be a part of everyone else's past. And like I said, this show is about dealing with the past, and I feel Edward sees that, and he sees how Spike is trying to fight his past, Faye's trying to find her past, and Jet is trying to forgive his past. You know,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just Edward's just my favorite character because of that. Also, all the funny jokes, mushrooms. Also, don't leave food in the fridge, please. You get those references, you're off.
Yeah.
But yeah, Zyber. I really want to go into depth with at least like quick analysis. But before I do that, what is your favorite?
Well, my favorite character will be, of course, this. I like hot chicks. But it's not
Of
because
course.
it's not because she's hot.
Kinda.
So this character in particular is her her last name is Valentine, right? Something like that.
Yeah, Faye Valentine.
Exactly. So the reason I like this character is that even though she had a little bit of chemistry with Spike, not so much, but because it doesn't us fans always like think above these characters, but these characters have this this little chemistry, and this anime show that at least them, like you said, did they some of them are trying to remember, just like Valentine, because she does not remember her past at all. And she, when I think it was Edward, right? It's a boy, yeah.
It's a boy.
Yeah,
Edward's
it's a boy. Yeah, it's a boy.
I hate it whenever anyone brings this discussion. Edward
It's a boy.
has a penis. Okay? He has a penis. You can see his nipples, and it's going to be perfectly legal.
Yeah.
Edward is a boy.
So there is this episode in particular where Edward showed when Valentine was just like a teenager, a girl, when she was in like with
The
her.
picture, right? The picture?
No, he actually showed a video. And Spike and
Oh.
Jet like were watching it, and like I was like, man, this hit me in the feels because he cannot remember all of that shit. And that makes you like, wow, it's so important for you to like at least remember your past too. And
But like in that, I think I remember what you're saying. That was a moment where I kind of like, Faye instantly became like a really good character to me because I kind of hated her starting off.
yeah.
But at that moment, it was this woman realizing that she doesn't remember who she is, but she knows that she was happy.
Exactly. And
She was happy, and right now she's in this shithole, going through so much shit. But at one point, she was happy. So like, what happened?
Exactly. and that is one of the things that I really love about this character. And I think the other part that actually impacted me was when she pointed a gun at Spike. Yeah, I was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ!" I was like, "Man, I want a hot chick like that." Like, yeah, point that gun at me, girl. Like cowboy.
Kind of. We need a nurse in the house. So kind of. Someone's got a fever.
So I do not remember exactly what actually happened or why she did it. It's all I remember. She was stopping Spike from doing something.
I know exactly why. I know exactly why, and that's something I wanted to reference.
All right, then go on.
Right. So in this show, like I said, the show is very, very depressing. You cannot watch the show and finish this show being depressed.
Exactly.
So, like I said, everyone in the now we're going into like deep spoiler what everything is. So if you really don't want to use it and watch the show, I would suggest stop, watch the show, and then hear what I have to say.
All right.
But yeah. So diving in, 3, 2, 1, let's begin. So this show is about facing your path and being able to move on. And everyone has that heart to do that. Like you mentioned, Edward, or like I mentioned, Edward realizing what's going on, living currently in the present and moving forward to the future. He's the only character able to do that in this show, in a sense. Like everyone faces their past, but they don't necessarily move on, so to speak. Edward and Ein are the only people in the show able to do that. Now, first off, we have Jet. We had Ed first, but for the last 3 characters, we have Jet. Jet was this police officer, intergalactic police officer.
The cyborg arm.
So we get to see like in flashbacks what happened to him, how he got betrayed, and how he lost his arm because of it, and how he had to kill his partner. And when he meets up with, and then we get to see him resolve that, have his character arc. They're going to find meeting the woman that betrayed him and that left him behind all those years ago and caused him to lose his arm. And he ends up, he like clears it. He faced his past and he has a conversation with her and he apologizes for what he's done. She apologizes. They're all happy. But they're all happily, but there's no ever happy. Jet goes back to the Bebop. He continues his days bounty hunting. He continues living the exact same way as he was. Waiting for this moment. He was living that way, and he then just keep living that way instead of moving on. He continues staying in this cycle. A man caught in an endless cycle of just bounty. Is what Jet ends up being. And then we have apparently your favorite character, which caught me a little by surprise, Faye Valentine. The woman with amnesia, the woman who knows nothing. So this is very important, how I introduce her right now. The woman who is nothing. So she is introduced to the show, and slowly but surely, at one point, you are explained that she has amnesia. She does not remember anything from her past. She does not know who she truly is. But she does have an enormous debt. She's quite the gambler.
Now,
you see where the inspiration for Tsunade. Anyways, as you mentioned, we get to see this video of her being happy. And later on in the closing episodes of the show, she actually gets her memory back. And you get to see her remembering how her home got burned down. Everyone she cares about is dead. And a traumatic experience that happened after that is what made her cause her to lose her memory. And she realizes that she is nothing. She has nothing to go back to. She has nowhere to go except stay where she is. A woman who ends up being nothing and frozen in a cycle. Now, the fact is that she had made a new life. Mm-hmm. And realizing this, she sees this as her chance to move forward. But then Ed leaves. Then Spike decides that he has to leave, makes the choice to leave and leave the crew behind. And she doesn't want that because Spike and Jet and the Bebop are her life. And this is all she has left.
Yeah.
This is what's keeping her from being absolutely nothing or no.
Exactly.
And that is why she's trying to fight. She is threatening Spike with shooting him so that he doesn't leave to face his path as she and Chet have.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. And now. So then we got Spike. Spike Siegel. Spike's like this. I like to see him as like this mixture of Bruce Lee and Steven Seagal. And no, it's not because of the name. It's because he's got like this. He was part of the Italian mafia. So how we see everyone like face their past, that Spike has to face his, but he doesn't want to. He's this character of just waiting to see if it'll blow by. So Spike was part of this like mafia group called the Red Dragon.
Yeah.
And he had a girl that he loved, obviously, at that time, called Julia. And he was going to get away with Julia and just abandon the mafia, the Red Dragon. But she never showed up. The Red Dragon were coming to get him. And he just left it. And that's just where he's left it. And he's just been bounty hunting and doing everything else he can. Just leaving that there. Never trying to contact Julia. But we get to see a character that recurs a couple of times. Vicious. He's like, he was like Spike's partner, and then became like the leader of the Red Dragons or something. Which if Spike had not left, he would be in Vicious's place.
Mm-hmm.
I think is how I understood it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically, Spike gets this message from Julia to meet her at this factory. She finally escaped the Red Dragon, but then he goes to see her, but then they get raided by the Red Dragons, and some henchmen kill Julia. Like I said, spoiler territory. Don't get in.
Yeah.
Julia, the woman that Spike loves from his past, dies. And he goes back to the Bebop, gets ready for one final assault on the Red Dragon fate. And this is where it intersects with Faye threatening to shoot Spike so that he doesn't go.
Yeah. She actually shoots the gun, but not at Spike.
He shoots the gun, I do believe, twice. I think.
No, it was like
one.
5 times.
It was 5 times?
Yeah, it was like she almost like wasted all the mag.
Okay. I guess I can watch that. But yeah. I guess the bullets just won't hit Spike. They won't stop.
Yeah, exactly.
So, because of it being his past and how he has to face it, and how he now knows that he needs, like, I think the phrase was, I think it was in that scene where he's talking to Faye, It's that he needed to see if he was really alive. The fact that he wasn't living, he was just staying in the same place. He was the man frozen in time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, this again, that was frozen there in that time, in that loop, in that cycle,
Yes.
which is where I mentioned before that Jet and Faye got to after phasing. But Spike made the choice to be in that cycle. And now he's making the choice to step out of it. And that's the choice that he's making by leaving the crew, leaving the ship, and going to face the Red Dragons. Obviously, he faces all of the Red Dragons. He faces off against Vicious, and he kills Vicious. And the Red Dragons are, I imagine, done for.
Mm-hmm.
And then Spike passes away.
Yeah, it's a true cowboy. How do I say it? Like every cowboy dies, even the good ones.
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh yeah.
yeah. It's the Spike Spiegel died like a cowboy, and this is a space cowboy, and every time an episode finished, like the text on the bottom say, "See you, space cowboy," and that was like so. Wow, this is so melancholy. It's just peaceful too. It's just like when you live in that memory, even though some of these characters don't remember or they just don't want to live in the past. This whole anime brings a lot of even if it brings depressive feelings, but it teaches a lot. It teaches a lot, and for me, it taught me that is the past is a valuable thing, even though if it's bad, but you could actually manage, and grow up. And also, it taught me that you cannot do this alone, but with friends. And that is like I remember Cowboy Bebop because of that, not just because of the fighting or the gunfights, because even though the fighting, the cool choreographies and the gunfights were top notch, but Cowboy Bebop is on that top 10 list of my anime, and yeah, it's fully recommended. Give it a chance and don't hesitate. I mean, it is, and we know it is a 90s anime, and it's gonna look 90s, but
No, it's not gonna look 90s. It looks like it's one of the greatest animated things ever.
Indeed,
like this anime looks like water.
yes,
It's just perfect fluidity, like the action, the characters, how everything is animated. It just feels like water, perfect fluidity.
and this is the most like the anime that it brought me back to those kinds of days. This shows that the 90s should be respected, because there were a lot of anime back in the day, but damn, this one just wrapped it up the 90s, because this was in the 98. And I know there was like a 99 anime in which was really, really good. I have to look it up, but I know I watched it, and I think it was Trigun, if I'm not mistaken.
I remember Dragon.
Yes, so yeah, it's Cowboy Bebop, even though I think it had one movie, right? I think it had one. Yeah, it had one movie, and that movie, holy freaking shit! I know it's for another topic because we're running out of time, but yeah, it's watch this anime because it teaches a lot, and you will fall in love with all these characters, even the dog and the freaking spaceship, the Bebop. So anyway, guys, this will be it for today. Please don't forget to favorite, rate, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for supporting the channel. This has been Zyberpunky,
And it.
and we'll see you guys later.
Farewell, that's Jim.
See you, Space Cowboy.